Welcome to Nick and Dave Deep Dive the Metaverse, a podcast exploring cult classics, subculture, and geek media. I'm Nick.
And I'm Dave.
And we will be your tour guides today for this hot take on Hideaki Anno's fourth and final installment in his, postmodern, revisionist, super robot, anime epic, Evangelion 3.0 plus 1.01 Thrice Upon a Time.
I might have added supernatural thriller in there as well.
You want to throw that in there?
And maybe even say that this is his third conclusion to the series that he's written and directed.
I mean, that's in the title, Thrice Upon a Time.
Yeah.
It could be third time's the charm.
Yeah, Thrice Upon a Time is a great title for this because when we started getting into talking about we want to do cult classics and we like geeky stuff, and so Evangelion is both of those.
Yeah, for sure.
But this is a huge pile of content to look at. So you can't just watch Thrice Upon a Time in isolation.
No,
you have to at least watch the 3 movies before it, which are called the rebuild of Evangelion. But the divers might not know much about Evangelion to know that it started as a manga in the mid and early 90s.
Anime.
It was a manga first.
Was it? No.
But Anno and so then Anno took that material and he made it into an anime and greatly changed everything from the manga. It got bigger and crazier.
Yeah.
And then that was called Neon Genesis Evangelion in the mid 90s. And then he did some movies after that, and there was actually even an end of Evangelion movie already. So it's the end of the anime and then the end of Evangelion in the movies. And then these 4 movies. So these were not just released to DVD or released to Amazon as we have it here. These 4 movies, the tetralogy as they're constantly referred to online.
It's not a quadrilogy, it's a tetralogy.
Yeah, I guess so. The tetralogy is responsible for over $292 million in box office in Japan alone.
Yeah.
These movies are huge in Japan. So this is kind of a big deal. It's crazy that it took so long to get a real release in America. So I was excited to get into this, and halfway through, I know this is a hot take, but I was deep diving it.
Yeah, no, me too.
I was like, I think I bit off more than I can chew.
So what all did you watch? Because you were going in, I had watched the series. Admittedly, I'm not an early adopter to this. I didn't get really hip to it until after Shin Godzilla came out, so that would have been in 2016.
Yeah.
And that made me go, well, this guy did that Evangelion thing, so I should check that out, and made me go back and watch that series.
Did you watch all of Neon Genesis?
Yes.
Okay.
But
that's crazy.
I watched, it's some like 27 episodes or 28 episodes.
I mean, that's a lot still.
Yeah, I mean, but it's not a lot for an anime series.
No, that's true.
Because it's like...
Looking at you, One Piece.
Yeah, it's like, or your Dragon Ball, it's like, what's this Dragon Ball all about? And it's like 200 and some episodes, and you're like, never mind, I don't need to know.
Oh, man, that's kid stuff. Because I'm at least 300 episodes deep in One Piece, and I'm still a neophyte, because it's over 1,000.
Yeah, no, it's... So, like I said, I thought 28 episodes was pretty digestible.
Yeah, it's definitely watchable. And I did not go back and rewatch Neon Genesis for this podcast, but I did watch some of it many years ago, so much so that I only remember the broad strokes.
Yeah.
And so I wouldn't consider that part of my prep. I actually watched these 4 movies in isolation, and I did a lot of online reading about them. I didn't want to branch out too much into the previous movies or into the anime or into the manga. I just wanted to focus on these.
Yeah.
And even so, there's so much fan content. And if you're just sure how big this was in America, it's worth noting that this broke Amazon Prime Video's all-time high day one view.
A lot of people waiting for this.
It was this is not just for Japanese people. This was absolutely huge. Obviously it's Amazon Prime's biggest single day stream. So I found a lot of information on YouTube, a lot of information on the internet, and it just got crazy.
And it's there's lots of differing theories on things, and so you can get very different takes from different videos and different articles and stuff. So yeah, that's cool. I'm glad you went so hard in on this. Did you happen to watch the end of Evangelion, or you haven't seen that either?
No, I didn't want to watch anything that wasn't part of this tetralogy, because one of the stated missions from Anno about this set of movies is that they were a complete rebuild from the ground up, and they were supposed to be more accessible to non-fans, people that had never experienced Evangelion before this. I'm not sure he totally succeeded in that, because there's a lot of mysterious stuff that isn't explained. And I thought that was cool to try to do that. But also this has a different look from everything else. I wanted to really immerse myself, because they use a combination of old school animation, digital ink, paint, and a lot of 3D CG animation, and it's all kind of blended together with clever editing. Yeah,
and it's blended together, in my opinion, really well. I really, a lot of times I have a hard time connecting with modern computer-generated anime, and I don't bump up against it here, because this is real masterwork stuff.
There are a couple of places that I was taken out of the moment by the CG, but none of the other animation stuff really, it all was done super well, especially I would say especially in the fourth movie. The fourth movie was the most seamless, which the fourth movie called Thrice Upon a Time, so you'll just have to get over that, divers.
I mean, a lot of the I mean, I think it's all relevant to the plot and to the films themselves, but a lot of the English language stuff is done because English sounds cool in Japan.
Yeah, of course. That's a trope where they throw in English stuff here and there because it sounds cool.
Did you do sub or dub?
I watched these in dubs, and then just because it's easier for me to take notes when I can actually hear the words come out. And then I did a lot of watching of things on YouTube, and all of that where they're talking about it. It all is reviewing the subs. I'm kind of notorious for not being a huge fan of subtitled stuff, because it forces me to glue my eyes to the bottom of the screen. I can't really take in the whole thing. And I know that's a very unpopular opinion in anime circles.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a sub purist. I watched it the first time I watched it dubbed. And then when I watched my second viewing, when I was taking notes, I watched it subtitled.
Yeah.
And I really liked taking my notes with the subtitled version, because it made it real easy for me to pull quotes.
Sure.
Just pause it, and I can just copy what it says on the screen.
It spells everybody's names out right.
And the other thing is there was some translation differences in the sub versus the dub that I thought a couple of them were kind of significant.
Okay.
So I was glad I saw both. But that's probably enough about that.
Yeah, it's probably enough of an intro of something we're about to spend a while talking about.
Right. What have you been up to lately?
I got a new car. I had my reservation for that Ford, the Bronco, but I got a series of disappointing emails over the last 6 months, to where I got pushed past, even though I reserved in the summer of 2020. I wouldn't even be getting a build date until sometime in 2022. Whereas some people have them delivered already. And part of that is I'm not going to take this upon myself and say part of it's my fault.
Yeah.
It's part of it, the things I ordered.
Oh.
I ordered the big engine
Yeah.
and I ordered the tow package because I needed to tow a travel trailer. And I also ordered a hard top because I live in the Pacific Northwest and a soft top is dumb.
Yeah, for
all
sure.
three of the all three of those things are having supply chain issues. So had it just been one, I might have been able to get in on some of the low supply stuff. But anyway, didn't get it, and I wasn't willing to wait yet another year because that means if I get a build date sometime in 2022, it might be 2023 until I get the rig.
Okay, because I was going to ask, I see Broncos out on the road, so I was like,
you probably see Bronco Sports on the road.
Okay.
I've only seen 2 full-size Broncos on the road.
Gotcha. Okay.
That also pissed me off the whole time. Like, everyone's like, I saw a Bronco. I don't know why you like it. It's like, what you saw is a Sport, which is a literally rebodied Ford Escape.
I was going to say, it looks like a Ford Escape with a different trim kit on it, basically.
That's exactly what it is. The Bronco Sport is a Ford Escape. They literally watered down their brand and put out the shitty one first. So everyone in the world sees that and is like, nah, hard pass.
That's the Ford ethos, though, right?
Yeah, ruin your brand. Let's name our big boat of an electric vehicle a Mustang. But it's not. It just has the nose of a Mustang.
Yeah.
And so they did the thing. Anyway, so I went to a used car dealer that had a whole bunch of different vehicles that I was super interested in. Jeep Gladiator, a bunch of full-size trucks, and Toyota 4Runner, and I test drove everything.
Yeah.
And I had done a lot of internet research, and I really wanted the Jeep Gladiator to win this race.
Let's get the review on the Gladiator, because I'm curious.
I was leaning into the Gladiator because I liked it. And when I walked up to it, it looked really rad in person, and I was like, this is the one. And then when we drove it, we were test driving on a 100-degree day, and it was hot in there. The AC cannot keep up because it's just utterly uninsulated. I was breaking a sweat driving with max AC blowing on me. The seats were not very comfortable at all. Carrie was sitting in the back seat, and she was like, yeah, I don't know if I could do this on a road trip. This is harsh. And the road noise was really bad. I mean, okay, I'm not going to say really bad. It was just not great. It felt like a downgrade of ride and comfort from our Subaru Forester.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And I was like, okay, well, I kind of expected that. This is sort of an off-road rig. But it just didn't feel good to drive. And I'm tall, divers. If you don't know me in person, I'm 6'4". My head went above the roll cage, and
that's dubious.
Dubious as hell. And so the seat didn't actually lower low enough for me to see really great out of the super boxy windshield. So we then tested full-size trucks, and let me tell you, Chevy makes a really nice truck. The Chevy Silverado is an amazing truck. We almost bought one.
Okay.
It's that nice. The ride quality was like a Cadillac, and it just drives like a dream. So spacious. It's really nice.
You're really giving this good overview of the ethos of different motor vehicle companies, because Jeep doesn't give a fuck about your comfort.
No, they don't. And it sucks because if you're going to drop a lot of cash on a Wrangler or a Gladiator Rubicon, you expect to actually enjoy driving it.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Well, on the road, but you got to get it off on the trail.
Yeah, how often do you drive on the trail? Even if you're like a trail dude, if it's your daily, if you're trying to get to work, you know. Anyway, the 4Runner won the race.
Okay.
It's just the best of all worlds. It rides the best. It's not quite as spacious as the Silverado. It's maybe a little less Cadillac, but it is it is really, really nice. The interior was much nicer than Chevy. Toyota knows what they're about.
Yeah, for sure.
And we just got a screaming good deal because I just sat there and haggled and showed them a bunch of internet offers from around the region. And they were like, where are you getting this number? And I was like, well, it just seems like you're asking me to pay more than everyone else. So I don't think that's a good idea. Sorry, divers, if you hear my cat, she's like down the hall a little bit, but just making some noise.
Yeah,
anyway,
she wants living.
Yeah, so I got a new rig. I've been modifying it. I put a TRD skid plate under it. We put a small lift and some larger tires, and I put a bug screen on it. You know, just slowly but surely making it my own.
That skid plate, in my opinion, is necessary.
You think so?
If you go off-road at all, like in rocky terrain where there's big ruts and rocks sticking up in the middle, yeah, you're going to hear that scraping on rocks and know that, you know, your oil pan is safe. So
yeah, it came with a I ended up with the TRD Off-Road Premium trim, which is one below the TRD Pro. I test drove a TRD Pro and the Fox suspension on that. It was very Jeep-ish because it's just a mega off-road. The TRD Pro or TRD Off-Road Premium has the Bilstein suspension, which is still really good, but it's a little softer. It's a little easier on the ride.
You get that pillowy boat feeling.
It's got a little bit of that trucky vibe to it, where it kind of floats a little bit, and it's taken me a bit to get used to it, but I really like it. So yeah, adding the armor underneath was pretty important because I do plan to go off road. Although 90 or more % of my time is on the road because I'm towing my little trailer to a campsite. All right, so that's enough about getting a new ride. Everyone's seen a 4Runner in their life. They're pretty common.
Yeah, for sure.
You just got to make it my own, so it's cool. So how about you? What have you been up to?
Well, luckily for time, I haven't been up to very much compared to you.
Great.
But I did go kayaking for the first time yesterday.
Oh, super fun.
Diver Chris and her boyfriend Tim loaned us kayaks. Well, I mean, we all four of us went kayaking and used their extra ones. Went out to Lacamas Lake, which is pretty near here.
Gone boating there. We go canoeing there, but yeah.
Yeah. And just paddled around and just enjoyed the vibes, enjoyed the water. And
do you have any pricks and speedboats kicking up big wakes on you?
Yeah, I mean, they're having a good time in their section of the river, and we were kind of staying closer to the shore.
Yeah.
But yeah, especially as I was just getting comfortable with feeling like I'm not gonna roll over or any of that stuff, which everyone tells me it's hard to flip it over. I just had a hard time believing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when those big wakes would come every once in a while, before I was 100% comfortable, I'd feel a little nervous and resentful.
Sucks when they hit you right on the side. It's okay if you can go nose in.
Yeah. From the side, it gives you that rock, and you kind of tip more than you're cozy with, and you're like, it's 8:00 at night. If I go in the water, it's gonna suck.
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely gone out on that lake throughout my life, not just lately. It's a nice lake for that. I've gone fishing there hundreds of times. Probably.
So you have kayaks, don't you?
No, we have canoe.
You have a canoe.
Yeah,
okay.
We decided that we would rather be in one boat rather than two smaller ones. So we got ourselves a nice full size canoe and some paddles, and it's nice because we put a little cooler in there. We go out, have lunch on the lake, and paddle around. It's fun.
I definitely wish I had brought a beverage with me. Like I got out there and I was like, this is Miller time. I should crack open a cold one, but don't got. And so I was just like, man, should have planned ahead better.
We talked about kayaks too, but we just settled on the canoe. It's a nice choice.
Before you read the Offerman book, or
before actually, yeah. and we don't have a wooden canoe. We have a synthetic canoe because when you're scraping on some rocks or a tree limb or something. Man, could you imagine if you had some beautiful cedar canoe? You'd just cringe so hard.
Oh yeah, I still cringe just hearing hearing the plastic or whatever rub on the rocks. It's so definitely, especially if you had built it by hand, Offerman style.
Oh yeah, for sure. We ended up just getting one off Craigslist from somebody who had the idea, hey, a canoe would be awesome, and then didn't use it very much. So
yeah,
it was great.
The pro tip we got given was if we want to buy our own, which I think we do, wait till winter.
Sure.
So basically, like right now, everyone is selling them at a premium, but at the end of the season, people are like, I didn't even use this thing this summer. They're going to blow them out. So that's when to buy.
Good call.
A watercraft.
And then we can go out on the lake together.
For sure. It looks like fun. It definitely looks like fun. Now I know it's fun.
It is actually fun. Mm-hmm. And then you can boat over to our canoe and I'll hand you a beer.
Oh, that'll be idyllic.
All right. So podcast fuel, what are we drinking? We got a crazy brew today.
Yeah, I got, in honor of the Evangelion, another anime episode. Mm-hmm. I got a Japanese beer from Kyoto Brewing, and it is the Kyoto Bakushu Matcha IPA. It's a 8.5 ABV, 70 IBU, and it's a unique blend of Kyoto matcha green tea and strong hoppy style IPA beer. Unforgettable experience.
Yeah, this is really interesting because I like IPA and I like matcha. Mm-hmm. This is bright ass green. Like, actually, it's kind of a deep green.
Yeah.
When we were pouring it, it looked almost neon. But once it settles and you have a whole glass of it, it's almost like pine green. It's great.
And it's dense because it's got real matcha in it. So it's opaque.
This is really good. I mean, it's not something I would bust out sessionable and have sessionable or whatever, but this is a great experience. I mean, I'm a bit of a Japanophile. I like Japanese stuff, and this is done well.
Yeah, and I think kind of neither one of us was super into the very first sip, but as it's mellowed out and the matcha's kind of settled, it's mellowed out really nicely, and it's become very sippable.
Yeah, because matcha itself has a little bit of bitterness to it, and hoppy beers, IPA has bitterness. So this was kind of like bitter squared. But I think it's really interesting.
We've been talking about going to Kyoto, right? So
we're definitely gonna go.
We need to check this place
out. Yeah. I think what we need to do is go over there and visit Sage and Carly. I know Sage listens to some of these episodes, so visit them, see them, then take a train to Kyoto. Maybe they'll come with us. I'm sure they,
that would be super dope. I haven't seen Sage and Carly in many years.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, Sage and I will message, or we should call him Diver Sage. Let's keep on brand.
Yeah.
Diver Sage will message me occasionally, but I want to see Party Sage where he takes his ponytail out of the braid.
Yeah, he didn't go into Party Sage when we were in Japan visiting them.
Got to get a few more Boilermakers.
Yeah, that's true. All right, so this is a great beer. Check out Kyoto Brewing if you want a pretty unique experience. Let's go ahead and take a break and then come back with this hot take / deep dive.
All right, welcome back, divers. I think we're ready to get into this, but before we dive into the movie at hand, Dave kind of has some synopses of the first 3 movies in the Rebuild tetralogy.
Yeah, so I figured the divers probably haven't gone back and watched all of these movies. If you did, cool. Maybe you could at me with some corrections to my synopsis of these movies. But they grow with the telling. Each synopsis is longer than the previous because that's just how this is. Yeah. This story is an avalanche.
Yes.
So in 1.0, you are not alone. This feels like an origin story. It starts off 15 years after the second impact, and it isn't really told to us what that means.
Yeah.
But we know people are kind of living in these crazy cities that can that are all mechanized. It can go underground and become like fortresses. At a moment's notice. This is very like futuristic mecha mojo, and you meet this unlikely young lad who's taken into this government facility and told he's gonna be an Eva pilot, and he's got all these daddy issues because his dad works for the government in this Eva program, and they even have him go to middle school while he's there training to become a pilot. Has all of those dramas, and he makes some friends and etc. And this plot is fairly simplistic. It's a training montage after training montage with battle sequences. There are it's very reminiscent of Pacific Rim. There's a clock, essentially. Oh, an angel is coming. The angels are the bad guys, not kaiju. They kind of are kaiju.
Yeah.
And so they have to defend against the angels. And this is a total impending doom thing. Oh no, there's another one. Get to the Ava. It's time to fight. And they have some good battles, and it's a simplistic movie.
Pacific Rim caught a little heat in the early when it came out for being kind of a ripoff of Evangelion, and I don't think so. Not really on the first one. I think Del Toro's his references are older. It's probably more Gundam than Evangelion. But definitely the second Pacific Rim feels a lot more, even more like Evangelion, and uses some of the Evangelion concepts.
Yeah, for sure. So 2.0, you cannot advance. It starts pretty simple. They're killing angels. It introduces a couple of new Eva pilots. One of which, Asuka, is super huge in the series and all of that.
Yeah.
She really gets short shrift in this series of movies compared to her role in Neon Genesis and the other movies.
So is Dave an Asuka lover or hater?
You know, I can't really be properly in either camp, because I really like her when she's in her Eva and just kicking ass.
Oh yeah,
she's awesome.
She's a boss.
But I dislike some of her like childish, annoying things that she does. The drama outside the Eva.
Okay.
And so you also get to learn a little bit more about Gendo, who's Shinji's dad. Shinji is the young boy who's brought in. He's the star of this series.
The third child.
Yes. And you learn about, they vaguely mention some crazy supernatural stuff like, oh yeah, he got the key of Nebuchadnezzar. And they introduce all this stuff that's like Illuminati nonsense, like weird stuff happens. Like, Mari's Ava gets destroyed in a fight, and then they're like, yes, the destruction of Unit 5 went exactly as planned.
Yeah.
So it gets all like Death Clock with the with the council of bad guys.
I didn't make that connection, but you're right. I can see exactly. And Adult Swim and Toonami are related to each other, and so these were airing on the same network. There is some connections there.
Yeah, it totally got all crazy like that, and you're like, oh, I guess it's like that. Like, and so you have to understand at this point in the movies that this is not just mecha versus monster.
Yeah.
There is supernatural elements going on.
For sure.
They're calling them angels, the bad things, and they are kind of like biblically accurate angels with like crazy weird geometric shapes and things that are unfathomable by the human mind. And so anyway, it goes down that the ninth angel possesses Unit 3, which is Asuka's Eva, and it starts going nuts and like killing shit. It manages to bypass the defenses because it's an Eva and it's allowed past them. And so they're telling Shinji, oh, you got to take it out. And he's fighting all half-hearted because he doesn't want to hurt his friend, Asuka, who's more like a frenemy because she's shitty to him all the time, but he still cares and she cares. They just have this weird relationship. Anyway, they're like, okay, well, fuck you, Shinji. We're putting your Eva into autonomous mode, which they call dummy mode, and it goes berserk, and it savagely wrecks Unit 3. His unit is Unit 1, Unit 01.
And so this is a major because these first two movies follow the storyline of the anime series very closely up until this point. But in the original series, it's Toji that was piloting Unit 3 and not Asuka.
Okay.
So there's a big change here. And in the original anime, Unit 1 in dummy mode kills Toji.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so you're led to believe in this battle that Unit 1 kills Asuka as well, because it bites down on her insertion capsule, but she lives, but Shinji doesn't know that.
Yeah.
Because he's trapped in this Eva that's wrecking his friend, and he's just powerless. And so he leaves NERV, NERV, which is a acronym for the government agency. He's super pissed. And so basically when the 10th angel comes, Mari and Rei are left to fight. So Mari is one of the other new Eva pilots that you meet in this one.
And she's original to the Rebuild series.
Yeah, she's new. And Rei is the pilot of Unit 00, who is the one who Shinji met in the first movie. She's kind of this quiet and an enigmatic girl who's always kind of downcast style. I'm a Rei fan. I like this character through the movies. I thought that Mari was a little bit weird. She was I don't know, almost superfluous in some of this stuff.
She is, and because she's not in the original story, she's just there to shake things up and make them play out slightly differently.
Yeah.
So I think that read is pretty close.
And so basically Mari and Rei are fighting the 10th angel, and the angel consumes Unit 00, Rei's angel, Rei's Eva, with her in it. So Shinji is like, oh God, I gotta help. And he goes back to NERV and he's like, I will pilot Eva 01. Let me try to rescue Rei. And they're like, okay, whatever. And so they let him do it. And he goes, and this is where it really gets bonkers.
Yeah.
So like the first movie, zero bonkers factor. The second movie, like literally the first movie, I was like, oh, they're fighting angels. Oh, those are like kind of biblically accurate angels. That's cool. And then the second one was like, oh, this is like a supernatural thriller. That's actually an angel. That's not what they're taught. That's not just called an angel.
Yeah.
And then right here, when the fight is culminating, where Shinji is in his unit 01 fighting this angel, the fight culminates with Shinji's Eva absorbing the angel. Shinji's Eva absorbing the angel and becoming a divine being. This, they tell us, is going to be the third impact.
Right.
So evidently this has happened before.
It has, and it's much earlier in the timeline than the previous times the third impact has happened.
And so it's basically this Eva, it's got like one of its arms got removed. And so it's got this spiritual arm, like a spectral arm. And you see these big spectral wings come out of its back, and it starts rising up as this divine being. And then out of nowhere, a giant spear comes out of space and impales Unit 01, and it drops down. And that's when you see Kaworu, who's been on the moon this whole time. He is the one who stopped the third impact. And so from there on, they start calling it the near third impact.
Right.
And so that's kind of where the movie ends, with Kaworu descending from the moon in his Eva 06.
Yeah, and then there's a big time gap.
Yeah, it's crazy. Movie 3.0, You Cannot Redo, is 14 years after the previous movie. And this was a hard left. Like I thought from movie 1 to movie 2 was followable, but movie 2 to movie 3 is just a really big turn.
Yeah.
And then the next one from this third movie to the fourth movie, it's another huge turn.
Yeah.
So this is not, I mean, it's very evident that they are trying to cover a shitload of material in a short amount of time.
Yeah. And if you had been a viewer of the original anime series, 1 and 2 felt familiar but different.
Yeah.
3 is like total uncharted territory. Like I definitely I sort of was not super moved watching the first 2 movies, but once we got to here where it's all new territory, I'm like, oh man, everything's different, and I really really locked into it more.
So I liked the first 2 movies better.
Oh. Oh no.
Yeah, so
you'd probably like the original series best of all.
For sure. Like it felt more grounded to me and less weird.
Oh yeah, it gets weird.
Yeah, I like the less weird. So anyway, it starts off and Asuka and Mari are retrieving Unit 01 and Shinji from orbit. And Shinji is taken down to some crazy sky ship, and
The Wunder.
yes, he's fitted with an explosive collar, and he learns that he's the captive of this opposition force called WILL, spelled W-I-L-L-E, another acronym. They like acronyms here. And it's led by Captain Misaru Katsuragi, who's been present in the previous 3 movies. I didn't bring her up because she's kind of the commander back at the station, giving them the orders. And in movie 1, Katsuragi is she is Shinji's guardian. He literally lives with her.
Shinji and Asuka.
Yeah, and so she's like, I'm on Team Katsuragi. Like, I definitely, she's one of my favorite characters, and she probably is my favorite character.
Okay.
But she evidently did a quick heel turn, and was it a heel turn or a hero turn? She became an opposition to Nerve, and her group, she's trying to take them out, we learn. Her battleship Wunder is powered by part of the old Eva 01. That's her power core. And so basically, we get introduced to Rey's new Eva 09. And they... because remember, it was Asuka and Mari that rescued Shinji. Now Rey, who is the old pilot of 00. Sorry if this is confusing, guys.
It only gets more.
Yeah, it only gets crazier. She rescues Shinji in her new Eva, and she takes him to Nerve HQ.
And the last thing Shinji remembers is literally pulling Rey's soul out of her Eva.
Yeah.
So as far as he went into a coma having just saved her, and then she comes to rescue him. It makes total sense why he would go with her.
Yeah, he essentially felt like he was sacrificing his life to save her soul from this Eva, or from this angel thing. And so when she comes to rescue him, he's like, oh yeah, Rey, my good friend who I rescued before, she's rescuing me now. And so yeah, it totally makes sense. And so he goes to Nerve HQ, he meets with his dad, who continues to be a dick. He's absent, he's condescending to the nth degree.
So many times I say out loud watching all of this stuff, Gendo is a monster.
Yeah, Gendo is the biggest villain in the whole thing. And so he is told, now that he's part of Nerve again, that he's going to tandem pilot Eva 13 with Kaworu, the guy who stopped the near third impact by impaling Eva 01. Eva 01's my favorite Eva, by the way. Which one's yours?
It's
it's the best.
Although, I mean, one when it has 4 arms.
That's pretty sick, yeah.
Yeah, that's the coolest. I really need a figure of that.
Although I am a big fan of Eva 03 as well with Asuka. That's really cool. Red, kind of red and pink. It's just super rad. Anyway, that was totally an aside. We haven't even started on the movie we're hot taking.
We're getting there.
We're almost there.
This is all important.
Yeah. So basically, he's told he's going to tandem pilot with Kaworu, and then they have this weird let's become friends thing. They learn about jazz piano, and Kaworu eventually convinces him. He's like, yeah, I'm your buddy. And he takes the explosive collar off of Shinji and is like, look, I'll put it on myself. And it's kind of like a big show of trust or whatever.
Is it too early to start feeding in my read on things here? Or
no, go ahead, man. This is all prelude.
I think Kaworu is aware of the previous timelines. I think as an angel, because
Kaworu's an angel, we learn later in this movie.
He's the first angel.
He's the first angel.
I think he has an awareness of the cycle that they're in.
Yeah, the circular nature. Because multiple times in here, Kaworu mentions how he's met him before and he'll meet him again.
Yes.
And there's imagery in this movie and the previous movies that is from previous Eva IP that is never explained in this.
They're just permanent changes to the world that were left from previous apocalypse cycles, essentially.
Yeah. So what Otto is not telling you, but he's showing you, because I am the proponent of show, do not tell. He is showing you that time is cyclical.
Yes.
And this is a new cycle of the Evangelion timeline. That's why it's different, because it's not a reboot. It is a recycle.
Yeah. Or rebirth. Yeah, and it's very, as much as this stuff is all steeped in Christian iconography, the ideology that underlies it is very Buddhist.
For sure. So speaking of Christian mythology here, or ideology, I'm sorry. I said mythology because that was my train of thought. Do you think people from different countries who were not raised in a Christian country like we were, do you think they look at Christianity like we look at other religions as just pure mythology? Because so much of it is straight up logic bending and weird.
Yes, I think so. And people from the animation studio, and I think even Anno himself, have talked about how they use the Christian iconography because it's cool and foreign.
Yeah.
And it's really like
whenever an angel dies, these crazy, like almost laser looking crosses
the laser
come
cross.
Down. Yeah.
There's a rainbow and a laser cross every time one dies.
It's pretty dope.
It is. It's really cool. And I think it's part of why a Western audience connects so much with it, because there's something familiar for them to latch onto.
Yeah.
But I don't think the Christian symbolism and stuff goes all that deep. I think it's pretty surface level.
It's really cosmetic.
Yeah.
So I was thinking it would be kind of like if we wrote a thing and we skinned it all with Greek mythology.
Yes, totally.
Or whatever. Okay, so that's sort of where I was thinking going with that. Anyway, so Kaworu and Shinji become buddies. They manage to find a friendship, and Kaworu explains Gendo's plan to Shinji, and it's nuts. He is going to force evolution of humans by causing a mass extinction, so that people have to essentially ascend, so that he can be reunited with his dead wife Yui. Okay, he's willing to ruin the world and cause a mass extinction because he misses his dead wife.
Yes. That is the crux of it.
He's a monster. And his son is right there, and he never is even a dad once.
No.
He couldn't just love his son as the last remnant of Yui's memory.
You're getting to the end of the series here.
Anyway, so it's also revealed that Yui, who is Shinji's mother, is part of what powers Unit 01.
Yes.
So
that was clear much earlier in the series. But this is the first time. I'm glad. There's things that I was aware of watching this, and I'm just like, did they ever say this? Did they ever talk about?
They waited till the third movie to say that the reason he was the best and perfect pilot for Unit 01 is because his mother's spirit is the power plant.
Yeah.
And it is also revealed that Rei, his childhood friend, I air quotes childhood, is actually a clone of Yui.
Yeah.
So his friend who he tried to rescue and all of that is actually just a clone of his mom.
Gets very Oedipal.
Yeah, it's real weird. And so a bunch of crazy fighting happens. Actually, and I was watching some YouTube videos where a guy was talking about it. He said, if you just delete the fight scenes from all of these movies, the drama plays out exactly the same anyway.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm not going to talk about the fight scenes. It's an anime fight scene. It happens.
They're awesome.
They are awesome. They're not the best fight scenes in any anime, but they're pretty good. They fight. They're trying to kill Lilith, who is an angel who they had imprisoned
and
crucified, etc. And it doesn't go right, and more crazy possession happens. It's kind of a repeat of the last one. Unit 13, which is, if you remember, is being piloted by both Shinji and Kaworu, absorbs the angel, and another impact is gonna happen, just like the last movie.
And is this the fourth impact, or is this the continuation of the third impact?
It's not specified.
Okay.
And so this is when Kaworu reveals that he's the first angel. He just straight up says it. And then he got demoted or cast down, depending on the translation, to Angel 13. And so he says, we'll meet again. And he attacks the thing, and his head gets blown off.
Yeah, because trying to stop Shinji, they detonate the collar, and Kaoru dies, sacrificing himself for Shinji. It's a very Jesus Christ moment.
Yeah, exactly. And so Shinji gets rescued from his Eva cockpit after this whole thing happens, and he wanders off into the sunset with Asuka and Rei, who we now know is a clone of his mother Yui.
Yeah, and this is actually a clone of Rei.
And this is not even the first Rei clone. This is a Rei clone.
Correct.
And so that is where we pick up with our hot take.
We are ready to start the hot take now.
Episode it's 3.0 plus 1.0, Thrice Upon a Time.
Conclusion, prologue.
Yes, holy moly.
I'm so glad you did that, though. It's awesome.
I mean, I figured that the divers, if they're just listening to this because they love our sterling personalities, they are not going to go back and watch all this stuff. So I got to explain it.
Some people probably just listen, and because the period of time between these movies is really long. Some people saw them years ago.
The first three movies came out so long. There were so many production delays on this fourth movie that it was a big deal in Japanese pop culture.
Yeah,
it was like vaporware, and Otto took a lot of heat.
Yeah, and in between 3 and 4, and I'm just saying that because it's easier than all the decimal numbers.
Yeah,
he did Shin Godzilla, which was a massive film in Japan.
It was actually it took Thrice Upon a Time to actually eclipse Shin Godzilla's numbers in Japan.
And Shin Godzilla's been on our list forever.
Yeah, it's definitely on
we'll
the
get
list.
there eventually. But it won 7 Japanese Academy Awards, and not just the one for special effects, like Best Writer, Best Director. It swept the Japanese version of the Oscars.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times when you're watching these YouTube videos where they're talking about Otto, they just refer to him as Otto Sensei because he's kind of like a big deal in this whole deal.
He's I've been watching a lot of. There's some good documentaries about him. Some of them the Amazon has picked up, so you can watch them here easily in America. And he's a pretty revered director.
Yeah, he's good.
And he does not have, most of his filmography is variations on Evangelion.
You know, that's fine. If that's your thing, that's your thing. I'm not gonna try to crucify people for not doing branching out, because if you have an artistic vision, just follow your muse.
Oh, for sure. So right off the bat, that Toho logo comes up, and as a longtime Godzilla fan, ever since I was a little kid, when I see that at the beginning of a movie, I know I'm going to enjoy myself.
Okay.
That doesn't always hold true. Sometimes the movies are bad, but like I can't. It sparks joy, Marie Kondo style. Like when I see the Toho logo, I'm like, yes, a Toho movie.
Well, that's good. So this, I don't have as succinct of notes about this movie. I really took notes. Stream of consciousness. Not
cool.
Not that the divers care, but basically this opens up in Paris with
Yeah.
really beautiful imagery of the Eiffel Tower and these flying battleships and like an Ava in this kind of yoke thing that it's using to fly.
Yeah, like gyroscopic arms
Yeah.
swinging around it.
And it's one thing I wanted to touch on is a lot of the background art that the animation takes place on top of. It's just absolutely beautiful.
Right.
Like you could take any of these stills and it would make like a beautiful piece of art on your wall.
And it's a major upgrade with this movie over the previous three.
Yeah,
Wouldn't
for
you say
sure.
so? Yeah, okay, good.
The background art, there was a reason this took like 7-8 years.
Something like that. Yeah.
It was pretty huge.
Yeah. So we see this is Ville, and they're recovering Paris from the results of the third impact. Everything's shrouded in red.
Or maybe the fourth impact.
Or maybe the fourth. I think it's the third.
It's actual third, yeah.
Yeah.
The near third impact.
It's the completion of the third impact.
Sure.
And
Shinji's fault anyway, no matter what.
Shinji is both our savior and our destruction, I think is what the quote. And it's Mari is in this Ava unit.
The new character.
Yeah, and they're dropping her in there to fight off these what they call mock angels, which are like Ava angel.
They're like
warplanes.
They're like skull-faced drones, and there's thousands of them. And this is one of the places where they used CG to have like just huge amounts of enemies, where you couldn't draw that many. It would just take forever.
Yeah.
So the animation is a little bit it's integrated, I would say.
Yeah.
And it's pretty cool. And she's defending against these mock angels while there are some Will or Ville or whatever hackers are on the Eiffel Tower, I'm led to believe, trying to do something.
Yeah.
They don't say what they're trying to do.
Correct.
And Katsuragi is there and she's leading them.
Right.
She's like, come on.
And this is so this sequence was released as a teaser before the movie was released.
Okay.
So this was really I never really saw any trailers or anything for this movie. This was all I had seen for the movie, but this got me psyched for it. Like,
yeah,
I definitely wanted more of this.
It's a really cool scene because Mari in her Ava, she ably handles all of those mock angels.
I mean, I'm sure some people probably call Mari a Mary Sue type character because she's awesome at everything and always shows up when you need her. Whatever, I don't care. It's anime. That's just the way things work.
Yeah, I'm fine with Mari. She doesn't bother me at all.
Yeah.
I mean,
and
if I'm rating the 4 Ava pilots of my order of preference, I probably go with Rei, Asuka, Shinji, Mari in that order. And I guess Kaworu is somewhere in there.
I like all these kids. I'm not gonna. You can't rate your kids.
Yeah, you gotta rank them. Come on, this is not. Who's your favorite? You can at least choose your favorite.
Asuka is my favorite.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I like Rei. Rei is my favorite pilot. Asuka's your favorite, but Asuka's my second favorite. So that's cool. Anyway, so this kind of reminds me. This scene it reminds me of this classic anime trope with the danger. Okay, defeated. More danger. Okay, defeat that. It's a build-up cycle.
Yeah.
So she defeats the flying planes, and now we have these new CG marching things that are coming at them with these huge cannons.
Yeah, and they're like Unit 1 bodies with the first angel we saw. I forget what number it was, but that
like 03 or something.
Yeah, it's mask face. And they're goose stepping kind of like Nazi style.
Yeah, and they have giant guns and they're in a line proper.
Yeah. And so this is Nerve is building these things or whatever.
Yeah.
Nerve has just become tyrannical.
Yeah, they're really horrible. And I mean, they blow up the Eiffel Tower, which, is crazy. And of course, Mari deals with these walking shooter things again. Another cool CG / 2D animation integration battle occurs, and it happens.
She stabs, like the big cannon, she stabs into it with the Eiffel Tower.
Yeah.
And it's just awesome imagery. Like, and the way the tower twists up as she's jamming it into the cannon. Yeah. I love all this stuff.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And so basically, after they win... they restore the old city. They take it out of hibernation. So this whole time it had kind of a red pall across it,
Right.
like a red light. And so when they take it out of hibernation, the red light goes away.
Yeah.
And the city, when I say hibernation, it mechanizes. It's like it's like Transformer shit.
Because this was Euronerve's HQ. So they reactivate that, and it puts a protective dome over central Paris. And important for them, it gives them access to the nerve facility there so they can make Ava repairs.
Yes, for sure. So this was like a really complicated thing of saying we need to do a tune-up.
I know. I know where there's a garage that's not destroyed.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of like Fallout games where you have to fight your way in to find a power armor stand.
It is. Yeah, it's a lot like Fallout. There's been a major apocalypse, and everyone's just kind of making their way and building settlements. And,
yeah, it's pretty cool. And
so is Nerve the Institute? Nerve's the Institute.
Yeah, Nerve is certainly the Institute.
Okay.
They're the bad guys. Like the high-tech bad guys. And so they start getting parts and they're remaking Avas, and that's happening in the background. And then it's kind of like it's nebulously weird time. You're not sure what happens. It kind of jumps.
Yeah.
And then we go to Shinji.
Yeah.
And
this is the opening credit sequence.
Yeah.
Shinji, Asuka, and Rei, parentheses, lookalike. That's what I call her.
Yeah, Miss Lookalike is what they call her in the village.
Rei, Shinji, and Asuka trudging through the apocalypse is the whole credit sequence.
Yeah, and so they go into this kind of village that's kind of doing things super old school, and everybody's all gee golly nice to everyone. This is Act 2, basically, right?
Yeah.
And so it's revealed that Rei is not the Rei we know from the earlier movies, like the first movie or whatnot.
Yeah.
This is not the Rei Ayanami. This Rei, Ms. Lookalike, has never seen a baby before. She doesn't know about things like sayings, like good morning. And so we go through a bunch of this stuff where they like literally are explaining humanity to this clone.
So the big thing, I think, is when we get to the village... is that their middle school friends, Toji and Kinsuke, have grown up. They're like adults in their 30s, while everyone else is still children.
And we learn that this is like the curse of the Ava pilot. They don't age.
Yeah, like the AT fluid keeps them young.
Yeah.
This is also this is a meta commentary on the audience.
Oh yeah.
This is about otaku culture and obsession, and how the obsession with the Evangelion has kept people as permanent children while other people have moved on.
Oh man, Otto being harsh.
I mean, it's a bit pot kettle black situation.
Yeah, with him,
who he's also like
it's like a gray-haired old guy who's making movies where there's tons of like fan service and ass shots of these cartoons.
He's a first generation otaku criticizing third generation otaku.
Yeah, for sure. What a fucking boomer. What a dick.
They have different generations than us. He's from it's called the New Blood generation, which is after, technically, the New Blood or New Breed are closer to Gen X than it is to boomers.
How old is Otto?
61.
Okay, so interesting.
Yeah, so he'd be too old to be Gen X here, but he is the right age for New Blood in Japan.
And I did not know about Japanese generations.
I went down the rabbit hole on a lot of this stuff.
Okay. So basically we get into this town, this crazy little village. I gotta say, this whole act just bored the shit out of me.
I knew it would. I thought that through that whole because it's long. It's a little over long.
It's really long.
Yeah, and I thought Dave's not gonna like this.
It's just boring. I don't need those scenes with the baby and the clone.
You don't need them. Rei needs them, and Shinji needs them.
No. Otto needs them.
Ano.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Otto means father.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, he needs them.
Yeah.
He's making this for himself. This is his therapy.
I think so. Yeah, definitely.
So like, basically, they have this baby. His friends have this baby. They meet up with Asuka. she's really shitty to everyone.
Yeah.
She's like super shitty to them.
Everyone is it's very village communal life, and everyone has their role. And while Rei is kind of getting schooled by the Oba-chans,
The farmer ladies.
how to plant rice and do stuff, Asuka is a sentinel. She's like, Rei asks her about, why she doesn't work on the farms, and she says, I don't work in this place, I protect this place.
Yeah, and it's not revealed like how she protects it, like if she has guns or an
She does have a gun. Yeah, she's definitely strapped.
Yeah, and so basically this I had a little bit of a criticism for this part, because there's too much fan service here. They literally just have Asuka in her underwear on her bed like forever,
or fully nude.
Yeah, come on, guy, grow up. This isn't needed. Nobody's like that.
I didn't talk about it till what worked and what didn't work. But yeah, I have thoughts too.
Yeah. So anyway, she's shitty, and Lookalike learns how to work. Asuka attacks and beats up Shinji.
Yeah.
And he trudges out to the middle of nowhere and sits there. And then Lookalike brings him rations every now and then. And Asuka is like spying on him to make sure he's okay.
Yeah. And Shinji's basically
just
PTSD,
completely despondent.
And when he sees Asuka's collar, he ralphs, because it makes him, he immediately thinks about Kaoru's head exploding.
Yeah, and then interestingly, she starts wearing a scarf around her neck that covers it after he ralphs. They never bring attention to it. This is another show don't tell.
Yeah, because Asuka does care.
Yeah, the reason she attacked him was because she was so mentally and emotionally invested. She just kind of went nuts on him. Her emotions were too strong, I would say. Yeah. It's hard to say you attack someone because you care, but her emotions about Shinji are very intense. And so anyway, Shinji kind of comes out of it. He has this weird scene where he starts cry eating all the biscuits. And it's just like, okay, this is a little odd.
Yeah, because Rei just kind of persistently comes and visits him. He's at Nerve HQ, or the ruins of Nerve HQ, just sulking. We do... just real quick, we see Pen and like a whole bunch of Hot Springs penguins. Pen
is from episode 1.
Yeah.
And it's literally Katsuragi's friend/pet penguin.
Yeah. So I do, it's, no one says anything about it or engages with it, but when he pops up, I was like, oh, it's Pen. It's nice. It feels connected.
And then shortly after that, we get this weird musical montage with a slideshow, like stills. Why? Why did we get a PowerPoint in the middle of this?
Well, I mean, you have to get into some film theory stuff when you talk about what montage is all about. But basically, when you need to show a great passage of time without spending that much time with the audience.
Yeah, and Shinji is just kind of this typical, I guess he's not typical, but he's a super emo kid. And he's like, thank you for talking to me.
Yeah.
And then he like walks back to the village. It's like, that's his recovery.
Yeah.
Basically, he thanks Rei for continuing to come out and visit him.
Yeah, and Rei asks him to give her a name, because the old ladies say, we can't keep calling you Lookalike.
Yeah.
You need a name.
And so then Shinji goes and he starts working with his old buddy.
Kinsuke.
Yeah, exploring the land, and he learns he has to start fishing, but he sucks at fishing.
Yeah.
This place is super idyllic, and Carrie looked over and pointed out to me, she's like, this place is too nice. It's definitely getting destroyed.
I don't think it does, though.
I think it does later on. I think I'll point it out
when you think it gets
when
wiped
I think
out.
it gets wrecked.
Okay.
And so basically, they go to this weird. I mean, if the pillars stop working, we're screwed, because there's these weird pillars that are keeping the whirl. I don't know, the red light at bay. They don't ever explain it.
And there's like these zombie Avas out there walking around, and
and you're led. I guess I'm led to believe that those zombie Ava things are from Nerve. They're just supposed to create the mass extinction. That's like that was the plan. Yeah, man, this whole middle section of the movie is just a snooze fest.
I expected you to feel that way. So there's a lot of things here. I think, especially, it kind of clicked in for me as Kinsuke is driving Shinji around and showing him everything.
Yeah.
And you see there's this scene where there's like a submerged tree in a flooded river. And the impression that I got is this is really about living through disaster and persevering. And it's just kind of like, this is how you do it. This is how you go about regular life, even though catastrophic climate change is going on and all these other things.
Well, I mean, they really, I mean, they hit that nail on the head many times when
And pound it all the way into the board.
When Lookalike asks the lady with the baby, she's like, "Oh, why do we do this?" And she goes, "Because that's what we do. We just live." And it's like, okay, could you tell me again? Could you show me again? Could you approach this from every angle?
Yeah.
And then they do some things that are meant to tug on your heartstrings. Like they go out to this weird lab and they meet this kid named Kaji, who I guess is Katsuragi's son.
Correct.
But it's a theme in this movie that most people are bad parents.
Not Toji. Toji and his wife.
Toji is a great dad.
Yeah.
And so basically, then the next weird thing happens, and you know something's about to go on because Lookalike looks down and she has a glowing red palm. It's like crazy. So
it's like a stigmata wound.
Yeah, she leaves a note and it says goodbye. The tape player gets returned to Shinji, which is like his dad's old music player. Very Guardians of the Galaxy.
Right.
And then you know shit's about to go down. And it changes. We go to the next act.
So this is the place where the dub and the sub conflict with each other, because Rei goes to see Shinji for a final time because her clock is running out. She needs to be back at Nerve, sitting in the back to tank and recharging.
Yeah, because she's a weird clone thing.
Yeah, like an unstable clone.
Yeah.
And she goes to Shinji, and in the dub, Shinji goes, "There's only one Ayanami. I can't think of another name."
Yeah.
And in the sub, he says, "You're still Ayanami. I can't think of another name."
Oh, interesting.
And I think the implication's very different there.
I think it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I thought when I watched it the first time, that was really harsh to say something like that to her right before she literally explodes into goop. In front of him. But I think it's meant to be more like he accepts her than it comes across in the dub.
Yeah, like you're a clone, but you're still Ayanami.
Correct.
Which is weird because Ayanami isn't even Ayanami. It's really Yui.
That's a clone of Yui.
Yeah.
But what makes someone a person?
Well, I mean, that's what this anime is asking. It's not, I mean, and so, yeah, she glows red and her head explodes. Boom, she's gone.
It's rough.
Yeah.
Shinji just keeps catching L's.
Yeah, I mean,
life sucks for Shinji.
So he leaves the community and he goes to like turn himself in, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna be doomed to live in this blast chamber forever." And they go through these scenes in this military base, and it's so starkly different from the village scenes.
Yeah,
it really, at this point, it's like, okay, we're building up to something. This is now the calm before the storm. We had the middle act of this movie, and it was all just relaxed. We're about to head into some shit.
Yes. So the Wunder comes to the village, and there's like the exchange of supplies and information and everything.
Yeah.
Because probably, I mean, the villages are probably feeding the crew on the Wunder, I would assume.
Probably.
You know, and vice versa. They're bringing them technical supplies. And Shinji agrees to go with Asuka, and she just promptly tases him and knocks him out. And he wakes up, and Toji's sister, Sakura, wakes him up, slaps him in the face the first time she sees him.
Yeah.
And she's like, "I told you not to pilot any more Evas."
I really liked Katsuragi before she became a fascist.
Yeah, I mean,
She was cool. She used to drink beer and like have a good sense of humor and
keeping with your Fallout metaphor, Ville is the Brotherhood of Steel.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, she's a fascist. She's no fun anymore.
Yeah.
And so they're like, okay, battle stations, everyone, prepare for launch. And
You brushed over it a little bit. You mentioned it that they put Shinji and Asuka and Mari are also in these sort of like, it's like the Hulk container from the Avengers.
yeah,
But covered in explosives because they don't trust the Eva pilots. They need them, but they don't trust them at all.
Ville is kind of really shitty to everyone.
Yeah.
And so there's some things going to happen, and this is the plots just get really convoluted at a certain point.
Yeah.
Where it's just like, okay, they're alluding to a lot of things. They don't tell you a lot of information. A lot of stuff is happening, and you're expected to pick up on it.
Like the Wunder has a global seed vault on it.
Yeah.
Basically, it's going to preserve the earth, or like the plants of the earth.
And then at some point, Mari and Asuka visit Shinji, and they have some interactions there where Mari is like all interested in Shinji. She's all flirty and like whatnot. And I'm just like, this is weird. It's very forced.
And well, because they're about to launch, because they're going to assault Nerve HQ,
which is at the South Pole.
Right. And right before the girls decide to visit Shinji one more time, and Asuka asks Shinji if he knows why she was mad at him when he first woke up. And she's more or less satisfied with her answer, because he says something like to the effect of, because I didn't kill you and I didn't save you. I just didn't do anything.
Yeah.
And she's like, well, you're finally growing up a little bit, but I became an adult before you. And then that's like her final words to him before she thinks she's going off on a kamikaze mission, basically.
Yeah. And so they're gonna storm Nerve HQ, and there's like this crazy spaceship battle with all of this gunnery, and it's a CG fiesta.
So did you, growing up, watch the cartoon Star Blazers? Do you remember that?
I remember it very vaguely. Okay. I wasn't big into it.
So I was huge into Star Blazers.
Okay.
And there's a lot of with Captain Katsuragi. The way she's shown, like with her captain hat and everything, sitting there at the bridge, it's very much like Captain Avatar in Star Blazers, which in Japan it's called Space Battleship Yamato. And so they launch Operation Yamato here. So
it's a total homage.
Yes, this whole thing is an homage to both to Star Blazers and to a movie, The War in Space from 1977. The score that starts playing here is real funky 70s music, and it's an homage to that movie, War in Space.
Okay.
So there's a lot of like metatextual otaku shit going on.
Yeah. So this is pretty deep and important if you're Japanese, or you're deep
if you're a
into
nerd,
this.
Yeah. The right kind of nerd.
So yeah, like basically there's a space battle, and like the rebels are getting crushed. Villa is getting wrecked. And so they try the old jump to hyperdrive move from Star Wars. It just doesn't really work out.
The Holdo maneuver. Well. Yeah. I'm glad you got that, because that's not the only Last Jedi reference.
Okay.
Because as they're coming in there and they're piercing the LC field, it's a white field and it's red underneath, and the red is coming up through the white.
Yeah.
It's like the battle at the end, Battle of Crate in The Last Jedi.
Yeah, so they really do a lot of homage.
There's a lot of homages here.
So they're launching all these munitions. They're trying to destroy Ava Unit 13, which is rampaging.
Or no, it's crucified down there.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, it's down crucified, and then they launch Ava Unit 2 and 8, who do some battleship surfing. They're on these like flying battleship things, like Silver Surfer style, heading straight down to try to destroy Unit 13. And I liked Unit 8 with all of its hella guns and all that stuff. It was pretty rad.
And then is it 8 has all the guns and the gear, and 2 is the one that's super armored up?
And is all melee style. Yeah.
I like both of them. But
yeah, they were really neat.
And there's some of the best like fight choreography in the whole movie is through this sequence.
Yeah, this whole scene with 8 and 2, it's really, really cool. I bet you there's toys for all of these Evas.
Yeah, I need it. I need those.
I was thinking about just getting a single Eva 01.
If you're gonna have one, that's the one.
Yeah. It's pretty rad. Anyway, so it is at this point where I get taken out of the movie by the animation.
Oh, okay.
The fractal animation that's done, you can tell it's all procedurally generated and it's really weird. It totally changes the tone.
Okay.
It really makes you think, whoa, okay, this is different. This is odd. Maybe that's what they were trying for, to make you think.
Oh, I know you're talking. So like when all of like the little Eva mock angel things they're coming together and they form like that drill bit shape.
Yeah,
that's what you're talking about.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay,
it gets totally weird.
Yeah, I can see that.
And then there's more fighting. I mean, these bouncy little ninja-looking things are like wrecking Unit 8, and it gets all crazy. And they start calling like Unit 13 God's Eva. That's a cool name, by the way.
Yeah, Unit 13 is pretty cool because it's like the juiced up version of Unit 1.
Yeah, because it needed 2 pilots, the whole deal. Which makes me think Pacific Rim.
Yeah, I think that's when the homage becomes circular.
Yeah,
right? Like it comes back around.
And at this point, everything just starts getting nuts. Like I could sit here and beat by beat it, but it's not really worth it.
I think the big key thing is Nerve opens the gates of hell, and they're performing a magical rite.
Yes.
And Ville just walked into it and provided the sacrifice needed to open the gate.
Yeah. And they still can't impale Eva 13.
Right, because it has an AT field, and Asuka is not sure.
Is it her AT field?
Yeah, I think she thinks her own AT field is blocking her from attacking Unit 13.
Yes.
And so she goes into beast mode.
She pulls the rod out of her eye, the restriction, and she just becomes total berserk.
Yeah, and
Asuka has done this before.
It's I'm not sure what's going on, but I love it. Like when she pulls that thing out of her eye, I was like, I knew there was something under that eye patch. Like I just knew the eye patch was gonna reveal something cool, and then it revealed like she goes beast mode or berserk. That is the correct term in the language of the show. Yeah. And grows the 2 angelic arms.
Yeah, these spectral arms.
Yeah, and she's tearing through the AT field, and then Unit 13 wakes up.
Yes, and it gets up. And it basically reaches inside her Eva and grabs Asuka.
Yeah, pulls the plug out.
Yeah, and then it blows up. The Eva blows up. And
Asuka, like a fucking gangster, tries to blow her own collar.
Yeah.
And the soul of the original, like the person that she's cloned off of, pulls her out of like... transmorphs her or whatever, pulls her through the collar, so it just detonates with no one in it. And it's like, that's pretty tough. All this stuff's tough.
Yeah. Asuka is definitely the most hardcore of all of the Eva pilots. And then basically, like, it just goes from sci-fi to supernatural thriller.
Yeah.
At this point, it just does a hard turn. I guess it's not a hard turn. They've been leaning that way the whole time.
This is like, so I'm sure you've seen the Shinji getting the robot memes. It's time for Shinji to get in the robot.
Yeah, exactly.
Like Shinji, he gets up, just walks out of his chamber and goes out on the deck, just in time to see his father leave, because Gendo and Ayanami were having like a little tete-a-tete out there.
Yeah.
And he's like, Father, and Gendo's like, peace out. I'm going to hell. And like he gets into Unit 13 and leaves. And Shinji's like, I'm ready to get in the robot. And Ayanami is like, okay. Well, no, Shinji's Ayanami. What? Katsuragi. Yeah. Katsuragi's like, all right, Shinji, I'll let you get in the robot. And the crew is like, no. When he gets in the robot, it's the end of the world.
Yeah. So like they pull a gun on him.
Yeah. It's a whole thing, but Miss Misato saves him.
She takes the bullet for him.
And the captain hat falls off, and she turns into old school Miss Misato for a little bit.
She becomes cool Katsuragi.
Yeah, it's like the hat was keeping her in captain mode.
Gotta get rid of that hat.
Yeah.
And she's like, I'm counting on you, Shinji. Like she used to say when he was piloting Eva 01.
So, long story short, Shinji gets in the robot, dives through the gates of hell into the anti-universe to go and have the showdown with his dad.
Well, and they say, because they always call Asuka the princess, the princess might be alive within Eva 13, and so he needs to go in there after her.
Yeah, it's very Joseph Campbell, right? Hero's journey.
Yeah.
Save the princess is part of the journey. He's going into the belly of the beast. If we're going to pull out the hero's myth, he's going into the belly of the beast to save the princess right now.
Yeah, and so he ends up going down, and he has to battle his father, and he has the Spear of Hope, which, because these Evas like spears, it's like a thing. And they reference Longinus, who, if you don't know, is a biblical figure. He's the Roman centurion that stabbed Christ in the side with a spear.
Yeah, a lot of biblical spears. Spears are really important. Ask Zack Snyder about it.
Yeah. So he goes down there, and this battle is not really like a physical battle. This is a psychic battle.
Yeah.
Because the scenes change, everything goes, like they're jumping from place to place, like old scenery.
We missed something. I'm just noticing in my notes. It's a little important for the conclusion because Mari tells Shinji before he goes in, "I'll come for you no matter where you are. Wait for me, Shinji."
That's true. She does say, "Wait for me, Shinji." And one thing that's weird, they tell you straight up that this is not a physical battle when they say, "This is the world of your memories. Our senses are useless in the anti-universe." Yeah.
So basically, they say the what's it called? LT fluid, that there's some LCL fluid. The LCL fluid creates a virtual environment in Shinji's memories, and Shinji and Gendo have this fight, like you were saying, and it's like they're fighting on a movie soundstage. It looks like they're in one of the sound stages at Toho Studios where they make Godzilla movies.
Yeah, and they're going from like scene to scene, and they look exactly the same. And their Evas, this green and purple deal, except for their weapon. Shinji has the glaive style Spear of Hope, and Genjo has the fork style spear.
Yeah, and they're
2 heads,
and they're just perfectly matched. And Gendo drops some knowledge on Shinji, and he says, "Violence and fear are not the criteria upon which our conflict can be resolved." And then they snap out of the fight and go into Gendo's office at Nerve HQ and start having a real talk.
Actually have a real talk. Yeah. So at this point, it has the movie has ceased to be a sci-fi or a supernatural thriller. It is now the dreaded art film. It has become art film.
Dreaded to you.
Dreaded to me.
I love the art film. So now this is the part.
To you, it upgraded to art film. To me, it downgraded to art film.
Right. And meanwhile, in the not art film, Miss Misato is turning the Wunder into a new spear for Shinji. An unexpected spear, because all the prophesized spears have already been accounted for. And she's like, "I'm going to make another spear that Gendo is not expecting."
And at this point, they mention again Makanami, and they call her Maria Iscariot Makanami. Why? I mean, we know who Judas Iscariot is.
So Fuyutsuki, who is Gendo's like right-hand man.
Yeah.
Him and Mari have this little talk, and there's been little clues all along that Mari is she is the same age as Gendo and Fuyutsuki and Shinji's mom.
Yeah, we were kind of led to believe that. Obviously, she has the curse of the Eva pilot, that she looks young, but we were led to believe that she was old.
She's older than the kids. Like, she's like college age.
Sure. But it's worth noting with the time jumps, they're all adults at this point.
Correct. But
she's an older adult.
Yes. She's an older adult, but still younger than these people, because she calls him, and so this is one of those things where in the dub this stuff or in the sub it's a little more clear, because she calls Fuyutsuki sensei, like professor, and she calls Gendo-kun, which is like a familiar term, like you would call your homie.
Yeah.
So Fuyutsuki was like their senpai, and she's on a level of seniority with Gendo.
Yeah. And so is she like a double agent this whole time?
I just think kind of. No, not that she's a double agent, but that she's working for Ville instead of Nerve.
But she knows them. She's on a level with them.
Yeah.
They're old colleagues or whatever.
Yes, exactly. So that's why she is Mari Iscariot, because she's betrayed them.
She's the Judas to them.
But not to our heroes.
Yeah.
Who she's been true to the whole time.
So basically, at this point, Genjo monologues about his childhood, and it switches art style completely. It becomes black and white sketch art. And I actually really think that's cool how they're showing these flashbacks and the different types of art and whatnot. I really like that.
And it's a callback to episode, I think, 27 and 28 of the original series, where they did a lot of this stuff, like using storyboards to kind of show the mindscape inside the LCL.
I would watch a whole anime that was done in that sketch storyboard style.
It's really cool. Yeah,
I really like it. Anyway, so we basically learn at this point he fully explains that the Human Instrumentality Project is simply a result of a dude losing his wife.
Right.
And it's about his impotent male rage, about how he wants to kill the gods because he's lonely.
Correct. Yes. I think you're nailing it.
Yeah, super lame.
It's God, where is my note here? So are you familiar with hikikomori?
I'm not.
Okay, so this is a problem in Japanese society where it's men, like they call them like modern hermits, who it's like guys like Gendo who basically retreat inside of themselves, and they are obsessed with things, and they're not engaged in society, and they're completely removed.
Are they like the incel movement?
Yes, it's like the Japanese incel.
Okay.
And so Gendo becomes a commentary on the hikikomori.
He wants to destroy the human race and kill the gods because he's so upset.
He's so upset about losing his wife. And even so, this is like
what kind of a weird jackass would you have to be to think that's romantic?
Oh, dude. I mean, ask any school shooter or whatever. Like, it's a certain kind of like suicidal, but I'm taking everyone with me sort of depression.
Yeah.
And Misato does her thing with on the other side. Like, we keep cutting back and forth
between the psychic dreamland versus the real world.
And she turns the Wunder into a spear, basically.
Into the spear of Longinus, they call it. And it goes hard, like right in the eye.
Yeah. Through we didn't even mention the giant ray.
The giant ray CG that was not very good looking.
And all this stuff where we're seeing Gendo, how he looks just like young Shinji when you're going through these flashbacks. I'm never totally clear if I think Shinji is his biological son. But there's a read on this where Shinji is a clone also, because
he's just a clone of Genjo.
Yeah, because I don't think that's the case, but both it gets revealed that Asuka's a clone also.
Yeah, we get some flashbacks of Asuka.
Yeah. And we're jumping all over the place because it's
that's because
jackhammering us with information.
The movie jumps all over the place here, like and I think that they also give us some Kaworu information here, plot about him, and it's all about creating a new world, a Neon Genesis.
Yeah, restarting the world.
And basically, this is just a weird cacophony of a finale.
Yeah,
it's hard to follow. I only think the most hardcore of fans could follow this. Definitely, if you're new to the series and you're watching this tetralogy, you will not follow this finale. I mean, because it kind of ends with this crazy self-stab. Like Shinji is just like self-stabbing himself, right?
Yeah. I'm gonna try and cut down to what we're following. Shinji and Gendo, they're having their talk. And Gendo's realizing the human instrumentation project and thinks he should be reuniting with Yui, but he can't see her. And it's at this moment, like they appear on a train car sitting together, and Shinji approaches Gendo, and an AT field comes up in between them, and Gendo realizes he's afraid of his son.
Yeah.
And he breaks down through this whole thing about why he thought he needed to push his son away so that he could focus on bringing Yui back and yada, yada, yada. And then ultimately, he finally apologizes to Shinji and gives him a hug, and he says, "I'm sorry." And it's like the child Shinji that he abandoned. And then at that point, he has his epiphany that kind of what you alluded to earlier. Yui lives on through Shinji. All this time he spent chasing the ghost of Yui, he could have been connected with his son and still like living with her.
Yeah.
And so he has his epiphany and understands what's going on and gets off the train. And then we go character by character.
He literally exits the subway that they're on talking in this mindscape.
Yeah.
And it's the theoretical. He's done with the whole thing, the whole destroying everything.
He finally gets it, and Shinji basically goes through and gives a resolution to everyone. He goes on after Gendo, he moves on to Asuka, and he has this whole scene with her on the beach, which is a repeat from the original anime and from the end of Evangelion. But what's different is in the end of Evangelion, Shinji strangles Asuka on the beach.
Wow, brutal.
And in this version, for one, she's an adult instead of a child. Like her body ages up and she's like a grown woman. And he basically sends her on to her life with Kinsuke. She's like, he's releasing everyone from the cycle.
Because he says, you were inside me all this time.
Yeah.
So basically he's mentally, psychically releasing everything. It's like he's releasing them, but really he's releasing them from his mind.
Yes, from himself.
Himself.
Because he's been the one that's kept them trapped in this apocalypse cycle.
And he figures out that him dying is the God slaying that needed to happen the whole time.
Right. And so next up, Kaoru, and they have their talk.
Yeah.
And he basically, he lets Kaoru go out of the cycle. And Kaoru joins Kaji, who is Miss Misato's love interest. And they're going to like be gardeners together. like he's giving a happy ending to everyone. And then Rei, he goes to her next. And all this time while this is happening, the soundstage that they're on is getting struck. It's getting deconstructed to when he goes to talk to Rei, it's just an empty soundstage.
Yeah.
Like it's time, the movie's over and it's time for everybody to go home. And he sends her on her way too. And what's the thing he says? Because he says, I'm going to choose a life without Avis. I won't rewind time or revert the world. I'm just going to rewrite the world into one that doesn't have Avis. A new world where people can live. And then he goes to sacrifice himself to slay the god, like you said.
Yeah.
And that'd be the end.
He takes the spear of hope and he impales himself.
No. Because his mother steps in.
Sure.
The spirit of his mother and Gendo sacrifice themselves so Shinji can live in the new world.
Yeah.
And they push his soul out.
And they take the blow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the blow happens. It's just who takes it. Just like Katsuragi took the bullet for Shinji against the crew members, basically. His parents take the spear for him, and he has his own happily ever after.
Yeah. So I'll just say right now, I've been crying since Gendo got off the train.
Oh, man.
Like, I'm like ugly crying through this whole last 20 minutes of the movie as everyone gets their happy ending. I'm like, Lisa's outside gardening, and I'm on the couch, like rocking back and forth, weeping, like, this is so beautiful. And Shinji, he's out there on the beach by himself, and the world is kind of like deconstructing into the storyboard art thing. Mm-hmm. And Mari gets there. Nick of time, her Ava comes up out of the ocean right before the old world ends and the new world starts. And she goes into the new world with him.
Yeah, she takes the collar off of him, and they hold hands, and they kind of run out of this station.
Yeah, like a subway
station.
Or above ground train station.
And they run into the world, and it looks, at this point, it no longer looks like animation. It looks like the real world. It's like film.
And they're adults. I think that's
they're grown ass adults, and they're walking forward into like modern filmed Japan. It's not animation.
It's the city of Ube where Hideaki Anno grew up. Mm-hmm. And you see some of the other characters like Rei and Kaoru are on the opposite train station, and they're adults.
Yeah. And
basically everyone grows up and moves on. Goodbye, all of Evangelion.
Yeah, they basically killed it. Mm-hmm. This was Anno finishing it. This was the end of it. The cycle finally ended with when he became self-aware that he was causing the cycle.
Yeah, because Shinji is Anno.
Yeah, this isn't autobiographical. This is somebody's therapy.
Yeah, I mean, it's no substitute for real therapy.
No.
But it is someone working through their shit and taking us all along for the ride with them.
I gotta say, this was a crazy ass ending to any movie.
Yeah.
I think this really was for the super fans, because it was so complicated. Mm-hmm. You had to be invested in all these characters and all of that to be really into it. But let's go ahead and let's shut it down. What worked for you?
Number one, metatextual storytelling. All of the time, there's essentially 3 levels happening in every single scene. Mm-hmm. There's the literal plot. There's symbolically what's going on for the characters, and then there is a message commentary to the audience, and that's very difficult to do. That sort. That's like the Star Trek with the polydimensional chess.
Oh yeah,
like that kind of storytelling where you're telling 3 stories at the same time over 30 years worth of content. That's bonkers. Like no one can do that. So that's amazing.
It's debatable if it was accomplished here.
I think it was. Okay. Anno's unique viewpoint. He put so much effort into like the weird camera angles and stuff. Mm-hmm. There's a documentary that's on Amazon. It's called Hideaki Anno, The Final Challenge of Evangelion. Mm-hmm. And they really show like how he breaks down scenes, and he has people acting it out and then motion capturing them while they move cameras around the room and figure out, how do I frame this scene? Where's the coolest way to shoot this from?
Okay.
And he comes up with just really insane camera angles, like down the hallway from behind a faucet, or like over everyone's shoulder from the upper corner of the room. Like, so it gives you like this voyeuristic quality where we're always peering in on personal moments with people.
Gotcha.
And I think that's really next level. And then finally, the finality of it. This is the end. There's no more Evangelion.
Yeah.
Someone will make a new Evangelion because it's a valuable IP, and we live in that world where you have to mine IP forever.
Sure.
But as far as like the original story, this is the end. And everybody got a resolution to their storyline. Even Gendo, who didn't deserve it.
No. Gendo and Yui got to end
Heroically.
nobly. Yeah.
Gendo got at like a heroic end, and he didn't earn it at all, but he still got it.
Sure.
So, yeah, hats off. What about you?
So I guess I have kind of two layers of things that work for me. First of all was the very obvious. They're really cool mecha versus angel battles. I thought it was really awesome. I liked how the angels were biblically inspired. They're strange, incomprehensible beings of geometric shapes and crazy tessellations. It was visually very interesting. And I feel like the entire thing, especially Thrice Upon a Time, was visually wonderful. It was very good looking. The animation was great, and the backgrounds were wonderful. I think honestly the 2D animation was my favorite.
Yeah.
But I said that in our Ghost in the Shell movie or episode. I really like that style, that old school, that stuff that Anno is an expert at.
You need to go. You need to watch the original. It's on Netflix.
Sure.
You need to watch that.
Neon Genesis is on Netflix. Okay, I'll check that out. So then this kind of layer 2 is this is storytelling. This isn't just an action flick. This is a story of inherently flawed people, every single one of them. There are no perfect characters that come out and are just shining white knights here to save the day, etc. Every single character has a lot of baggage, and that doesn't matter though, because they move forward and they do their very best, and they're very their motivations are realistic and they make sense to the viewer. So I thought that was really good storytelling. I hate it when you have unrealistic characters with no flaws. These are all very flawed people, and even my favorite characters were people who had they had total like jackass moments, but I still really like them, like Asuka. They're just so good. So those were my personal highlights. So what didn't work for you?
So I put the pacing is going to feel too slow for a lot of people. This film, it's well over 2 hours long.
It's like 2.5 hours.
Yeah, and it doesn't fly by. You really feel the time. And it probably could have been 20 to 30 minutes shorter. I don't know exactly where you cut it, because I kind of like love everything. But you get into that like with your auteurs, like your Peter Jacksons and your Zack Snyders, who just can't stop the movie. There's just a lot of movie here. Probably it could be tighter and more succinct. And then number 2, I hate to talk about it, but Asuka is in the body of a 14-year-old girl. Yeah. And it's gross. It's gross to always show her naked and to sexualize her 14-year-old body. And
I wish they had aged these characters up somehow in the plot, so that maybe in movie 1 they were at that level, because they're literally middle schoolers. Yeah, I wish they had aged them up through it, so that by the time you're in a Thrice Upon a Time, these are adults. But yeah, you're right. There was some very questionable judgment used here.
So in story time, she's 30-something.
Sure.
But the body that they're drawing her in is a 14-year-old body, and yuck. I don't like it. So yeah, so those are my 2 negatives. What about you?
So, I mean, number 1, I think that they were fan servicey, and I watched a YouTube video that really talked about this, and he pointed out all of the different scenes whereas you pointed out how great the camera work was, there are a ton of scenes where the camera is at the lower left or lower right of the perspective, and you're looking up, and in the foreground is one of the female characters' asses, and it's their costumes are like super form fitting, and so literally it's just very, very fan servicey for these characters who are supposed to be adolescents. So I think that that's gross.
Yes.
So then the other two things I had to say basically was sort of recapping where this plot was very meandering. There were places where it was extremely subtle and hard to follow if you didn't have a background with Neon Genesis. And then there were other parts where it was just extremely ham-fisted, where it was just a jackhammer of the plot. And so I think that there was no way that Anno could have made this for someone who was not steeped in the Evangelion mythos, because he himself is the mythos. Yeah. He can't take a step away and make it for the neophyte, because he can't understand what the neophyte
even
hears
sees
or sees. And then finally, my last negative was that this is extremely pretentious. It really thinks highly of itself, and you can tell, like it's just very, very pretentious.
But do you think that's earned at this point with the impact it has on pop culture, especially in Japan? Don't you think it's kind of earned its big boy britches that it?
I don't think that it's ever cool to be that way. Even no matter how big you are, I always respect humility and realisticness and expectations and things.
Yeah.
So I think that it's just pretentious, and that's an opinion, obviously. So yeah, that's me. So now you got to rate this thing, and I expect that this is going to be a star or a plus for cultural impact, right?
Oh, okay.
That's my expectation.
I even forgot, even as the inventor of the plus, I still forgot about it.
Yeah.
I'll be honest. I have a hard time not giving it a 5. But I wanted to kind of get your read on it as someone who didn't start out. You jumped into the deep end of the pool and swam through the 4 movies, but you didn't start out in the kiddie pool with the show. And so I wanted to see how much you were able to get it, and you got it really good. Like, you grasped everything. I think the major concepts and everything. So I guess 4+. I think if it was half an hour shorter, it's probably a 5-star movie for me. It's right on the cusp of crossing over.
It's tough because I'm there with you. Like, I really wanted this.
It's a 5. This is my first Cinco.
You're just going with 5, not 5+, just 5.
5.
So I wanted this to be a 5 because it's supposed to be like the magnum opus or whatever of anime. This is really supposed to be the quintessential uber movie of the genre of this whole mecha kaiju, this whole thing. Evangelion is the gold standard.
Right.
Everybody loves it across the world, and I wanted this to be just fucking amazeballs. Yeah. And so when I watched 1 and 2, I was like, okay, this is really cool. I like how they took it supernatural in addition to the cool Evas and everything. But at a certain point, it just got too much. It shark jumped pretty hard.
It went up its own ass for
you.
It
went up its own ass into an infinite loop of self-aggrandization. Aggrandizing? Yeah, aggrandizing. So I wanted to love it more than I loved it.
Yeah.
And so I was thinking that this might be a 3 and it might be a 4. And I'm not sure where it's at. I think the fact that it was amazingly successful commercially, it has really, really good reviews in general. I think that I probably am just a little irritated that it was a little too long with a little bit of a weak act 2. And so I'm going to settle on a 4.
Okay.
I think it could be a 3+ if I was being harsh on it, but I think a 4, it's honestly a 4. It's a big damn anime movie.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's not, it's hard not to like it.
Yeah.
The characters are just so I don't know. I feel weirdly connected to them, and
they're very real and that seems like a weird thing to call it, but because they're so fucked up, it makes them feel very real because real people are always kind of a little fucked up.
Yeah, and I find it hard to hammer on its flaws, even though I do think its flaws are pretty apparent.
Yeah.
It's shining examples of like its high quality parts make it a 4.
Yeah.
So I'll give it a 4. You give it a 5.
And here's how I'm going to justify my 5. For one, since we did away with fractional stars, a 5 is not. I'm not saying it's a perfect
not
film.
unattainable.
Yeah, I'm saying it exceeded my threshold for a 4. You know. And the thing is, honestly, that last 20 minutes of the movie, I had a hard time even talking about it without crying.
Okay.
And this is, a week after my initial viewing. I've seen it twice. I've spent a lot of time thinking about it. And this movie has just stayed with me this whole time. And that, to me, that's that next level of movie. Like, there's movies that you see and you never think about again. I'll never stop thinking about this movie.
Wow. So you really loved it. So
Yeah.
I guess that deserves a 5. All right. So let's go ahead and wrap this up. We got a 4 from me and a 5 from Nick. Nick's first 5.
Yeah. This is it.
He thinks this is literally the best thing we've watched. I guess that's fair. So we'll come back and we will wrap this up.
Okay, welcome back, divers. It's time for that final segment, the one where Ask Dave, what are you into right now?
All right, so I don't have a crazy new hobby that I've got into lately.
Oh no,
I know, it's weird. So I'm just gonna give 2 quick and easy recommendations to the divers, something you can just check out on your favorite streaming platform for music.
Oh, okay.
And so the first one is a band called Hooded Menace. Their new album, The Tritonius Bell. This is a Finnish death doom band that manages to take what you think would be death metal and doom metal, and somehow they inject some amount of groove and melody and really sinister tone into the vibe to make it actually extremely palatable and listenable and good. So if you like metal, like with some of those tropes, like those classic sounding melodies and guitar solos, and you at all like the doom sound.
So for on a doom scale of Sabbath to Bongzilla.
Oh God, let's go mournful congregation as our extreme.
Where are we falling?
It's more towards Sabbath.
Okay.
It's more towards Sabbath. It has some heaviness, which is why some people call them a death doom band.
Okay.
Because it does have some of that chugginess that you expect. But I don't feel like this is much death. It's very much a doom band. And I really enjoyed this album, and I checked out their other albums too. And Hooded Menace is just an awesome band from Finland. They're just really great. And then the other one, this is a lot more well-known, a lot more mainstream, but it's a brand new release, and I really liked it. It's, the band is called Ginger, spelled Jinjer. And their new album is called Wallflowers. They are a Ukrainian band that started off firmly labeled as metalcore, but that is a very erroneous label.
I don't honestly like the metalcore label, period. It gets misattributed, I think, a lot.
Yeah, this is a prog gent band. And I know that's weird and super niche.
Yeah, why don't you define gent? Because not everyone's going to know that way.
Okay, so gent, spelled D-J-E-N-T, is a, what's the word when you're saying something that's a sound like pow?
It's an onomatopoeia.
It's an onomatopoeia. So gent is an onomatopoeia for the sound that an electric guitar that's distorted makes when you palm mute it. Junt, 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 So it's a chuggy sound that guitars make, but they are proggy because they insert interesting time signatures, really cool textural electronic sounds here and there. And what really makes them... Okay, so every member of the band is an extremely good musician. Their drummer is fantastic, bass player is amazing, and their guitar player, who plays both the rhythms and the leads on the recordings, he is amazing. But what really makes them stand out is their singer, Tatiana, who is she is a scathing, grim vocalist. Her screamed vocals are extremely good. They're very raw and they sound awesome. Male, female, whatever. It's just awesome. And then she also does all the clean singing on the albums, of which there is a fair amount. And her clean singing voice is excellent. They've been compared to, like, what if Opeth was way fucking heavier in their modern day? They wear the Opeth influence on their sleeve. And so they're super good. If you like heavy ass music that has both clean female singing and aggressive screaming, but very interesting instrumental parts, check out Wallflowers from Ginger. I think that if you want to know what 20-something metalheads are listening to, it's this sort of thing.
Oh, okay.
This is definitely of a of a decade or so younger than us.
Okay.
So this is really good, and I think people should check it out. Even if you don't stick with it, give it a listen.
I'll definitely. I mean, I've listened to Ginger, and they're awesome, and I've heard of Hooded Menace, but never dug into it.
You would like Hooded Menace.
Yeah, the way you describe it, I would.
Yeah,
for sure.
They even embrace some of that cheeky old style heavy metal art, like the Tritonius Bell cover art. It's like a skull bell thing. It looks like kind of like Castle Grayskull if it were a bell. Like, yeah, it's cool.
Dope. Okay.
All right.
I'll definitely check those out.
So what are you into right now?
So for me, it's a new-ish show on FX on Hulu. That's an awkward way to phrase it. And it's Reservation Dogs, created by Sterling.
Oh, I saw the advertisements for this.
Sterling Harjo and Taika Waititi. I wasn't familiar with Sterling. He's an indie filmmaker. But I'm ever since What We Do in Shadows and actually probably Flight of the Conchords, I've been a Waititi fan. So his name attached to it was enough to get my attention. And it's written by Sterling Harjo, Taika Waititi, and Bobby Wilson. And it's the story of 4 indigenous teenagers living on an Indian reservation in Oklahoma. It's a comedy. It's very cinematic, like well shot, and looks really good, and with lots of film geek movie homages, like to Platoon and Pulp Fiction, and obviously Reservoir Dogs, since the name is Reservation Dogs. And it's really funny, really heartfelt. That's a sweet, like it hits a nice Venn diagram for me, with the movie nerd, the soft-hearted, and the sort of stoner comedy. Like, you lay those 3 together, and I really like this show.
Okay, I'm definitely gonna watch that because I was interested already.
Yeah, and it's in this perspective, that you don't really get middle ass of the country, not middle America, but literally the middle of America, Oklahoma, indigenous kids on a reservation.
Okay, cool.
So yeah, I don't really have more to say about it than that, but I think it's worth checking out.
I'll definitely check that out.
Cool. Well, give them the call to action.
All right. Go ahead and subscribe to us on your favorite podcatcher and rate us generously. That includes YouTube giving us the thumbs up to subscribe and ring the bell.
Smash that subscribe button and ring the bell.
A 5-star review costs you nothing but means everything to us.
You can find us on all social media platforms across the metaverse as Deep Dive the Meta. We are on, I don't know what to do. We both prefer Instagram now. We've switched over. We
do.
How about this? Dave now prefers Instagram. I'm addicted to Twitter, but we're also on Pinterest, which nobody likes.
Well, I guess this is really goodbye.
Don't say goodbye. Say good journey.